Hi, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we chat with industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favorite TV and radio personalities, asking the questions that you want answers to. Our goal, a zero carbon future. Today, I'm absolutely stoked to be joined with my good buddy and country manager for GoodWe Energy, Dean Williamson. Dean, how are we?
Good, Rosh. Thanks very much for having me. How are you?
I am very well, mate. So lots to talk about today. Clearly, we're here to chat about the TV show that's going on air at the end of this week, which is going to be super exciting. Saturday, 4 p.m. on 9 Life, featuring a range of amazing brands and incredible projects. None more so than GoodWe Energy and the IGA that you guys have had installed with your technology. So I'm really excited to talk about that more in a little while. But before I do, for those of you or for those watching today who don't know you, can you give a little bit of introduction to yourself, who you are, what you've been doing in your career to date, and how you started at GoodWe?
Yeah, sure. I've been at GoodWe now for 6 years in the role of country manager, initially starting out looking after the Australian market. Then a couple of years later, we also were given New Zealand and also the Pacific Islands as well. And prior to that, I was working with another inverter manufacturer. So been in the industry now for about 14 years. And like everyone says, it's certainly been a solar coaster over the years. But, you know, being able to see the industry mature, I think it was around 2010, 2011 when it really went gangbusters. And then, you know, we've certainly had a really strong last 4 or 5 years as well. And then, you know, going from selling, 1.5, 2 kilowatt inverters and now, you often hear of projects in the megawatts and selling big battery storage system, which is, it's really great to see the industry come so far. And at GoodWe, we were predominantly just selling inverters to start off with. And then we diversified into offering hybrid inverters and then batteries, electric vehicle chargers. And then we also set up the BIPV division, which was our building integrated photovoltaics. And the reason being is because we saw a really big market emerge for households and businesses, I guess, where they couldn't fit any more solar into their facilities. So being able to integrate that into their facades, we think will be a big industry moving forward. Albeit at the moment, it's probably still a niche market.
I mean, to be fair, it's been amazing to see, obviously rooftop solar, residential, we started off doing that like back in the early, 2000s, but really seeing the emergence of commercial and just seeing it take off has been super inspiring. And look, for me, I remember the days of being an actual commercial solar salesperson, and it was just like pulling their teeth just to try and convince a business that, they're in a better financial position in a residential home because they're actually using that electricity throughout the daytime. Whereas if they only had a solar system, because this was prior to really battery storage really taking off, they were going to use almost every single kilowatt being produced, in that daytime. So as far as the return on investment was concerned, it was an absolute no-brainer. But really, that sort of didn't really seem to sink in until the last 2 to 3 years. And now, especially over the last 12 to 24 months, we've just seen the uplift in commercial solar go through the roof, which has been really, really amazing to see.
Yeah, and I think early days, I was similar to you selling commercial systems in the early days. I remember getting, power bills and the people were paying, 3, 4, 5 cents. And so at one stage, it was hard for the economics to stack up. But, as soon as the power bills started rising, people were paying a lot for their power. I think commercial became a no-brainer. And with the storage side of the market, of course, batteries were expensive, but also people were getting reasonable feed-in tariffs, which made it difficult for the economics to stack up. And as soon as we saw those feed-in tariffs really drop off, the price of battery and raw materials come down significantly. We can now see that we'll go through the same process or cycle that we did with regular solar systems, but with storage this time.
No, absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head as well. It really does come down to the rates that determine the economics. But really, when you look at businesses that have a requirement for, energy 24/7, So when they're if they're just like an office, of course, right, their usage is going to be reasonably low, but really just be prone to 9 to 5 when the guys come into to work and leave. But then when you look at organizations and businesses that actually have refrigeration, constant lighting, air conditioning, those things required all day and all night as well, just to look after whatever's in that in that business at the time. And that's when batteries really play their part, which leads me on nicely to the project that we're actually featuring this week on Energy Matters.
I think we were both ready for it. We've been shopping around for quite a while, and it was the right time. Power prices were high enough to just really make us move, and I think it was a good decision. No looking back. Yeah.
And the other thing, power's not, if you had a crystal ball, great, but I can't see it going down.
So tell me a little bit more about this project. So it's an IGA. It's in Morphett Vale in South Australia. How did you guys get involved in this project in the first place?
I think it first came about because we had a relationship with the retailer or installer Solaring, and they first informed us about the project. And the objective from the store owners was, first of all, to eliminate as much of their daytime usage as they can. Hence the 60 kilowatt PV system. And then because they're also really conscious about sustainability and also I would say the return on investment. So then they also looked at batteries as well. And then they thought, well, what we'll do is we'll try and put a battery big enough so we can eliminate as much of our nighttime usage. And what they ended up with was 60 kilowatts of PV with a 30 kilowatt hybrid inverter. So we have a ET 15 to 30 kilowatt range of hybrid inverters. So that's 200% oversized. So 60 kilowatts of PV with a 30 kilowatt hybrid. We allow that with all of our hybrid models. And then what they did was they put 102.4 kilowatt hours of battery in, and it turns out that offsets 50% of their nighttime usage. And so now they're looking at putting in pretty much the exact same size system again. So they're going to double it, which will go very, very close to eliminating their daytime and their nighttime usage.
Which is absolutely incredible. So clearly they've got a fairly large roof space in terms of being able to add that many panels on there. They do.
They don't actually own the whole roof space. There's a couple of other retailers, and they all sort of got together and said, yep, the economics stack up. So let's give this a go. And then they saw the results of the system, and they were pleasantly surprised. So they thought, we'll go again and try and get rid of the rest of the bill.
Absolutely awesome. And it's just so inspiring to see them actually taking that on. I mean, we've both seen the preview to the episodes. It's really, really inspiring. James Treble is hosting. He's obviously as enigmatic as it gets and just full of life. But I think when I spoke to James about it, he was just absolutely blown away, because obviously we've come across a lot of rooftop residential solar, and we know, and he knows the technology involved in residential. But for him to come across a commercial business, especially with such a large battery setup, he was blown away. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about the batteries being used? Because it's the same sort of modular design as you have for residential, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the exact same battery, and it works with all of our high voltage hybrids. So the battery itself is called the Lynx FG2. It's a 3.2 kilowatt hour module, and it's just effectively stackable. So you can have up to 9 of those modules in one stack, and then you can add up to 8 of those stacks together. So maximum capacity of up to 230 kilowatt hours. And the beauty of it is it works with our residential hybrids, also works with our 3-phase hybrids as well. And so a lot of people probably just know that as a residential battery, but quite a lot of businesses such as this one are using it for their commercial facilities as well.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah. It actually goes to show that, really the way you've designed your technology, I think is incredible, because it really has been, designed in such a way where, look, the really the unique component that's, I suppose, that the biggest distinction between the two types of tech is you have more residential specific inverters, single phase and three phase. But now you've obviously come up with these huge inverters, which are absolutely incredible for commercial use, and you can actually multiply those as well. So how does that work? So with an organization, if they had a significantly larger requirement for solar power, they had a huge roof space, like a huge warehouse or manufacturing facility, what is the largest size inverter that you guys can supply, and can you have multiples of that on that particular type of installation?
Yeah, so with the battery we use this time, you can have 4 of those 30 kilowatt inverters linked together. So that'll give you 120 kilowatt hours of inverter, and you can pair that with 230 kilowatt hours of battery. Although we do go bigger again. So we've actually just released an all-in-one commercial storage solution. It's a 30 kilowatt hybrid inverter paired with 60 kilowatt hours of battery, and that's all in one cabinet. And then you can obviously have multiples of those paralleled. And then around about halfway through the year, we're going to release a similar product, but a 50 kilowatt inverter paired with 100 kilowatt hours of battery. And then at the same time, we'll have an offering that's bigger again. That'll be 125 kilowatts of inverter and 261 kilowatt hours of battery.
Man, I need to size up my home. that is absolutely incredible. So really what it says to you, I mean, if you look back in the day where they're using the lead acid batteries, and those early adopters of battery, were kind of requiring like an absolute humongous room just for their renewable energy setup. But today, I mean, the fact you've actually got these all-in-ones, and forget the all-in-ones, even with your Lynx batteries, it looks so tidy. And the fact you can actually have them in stacks, and these guys have actually created, I won't give too much away about this week's episode because it's one that has to be seen, but I love the way they've actually created the cabinet as well to protect those batteries. They can safely be outside, be locked away, but look so attractive as well, and obviously not the eyesore people may think they're going to be. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's one thing we kept getting told is that IP rating for outdoor use was really, really important. They love that concept of the all-in-one. But what we're getting told is that, there was a really big market there for that larger commercial stuff. And so we're really excited to be releasing those. And, and especially that really big one with 260 kilowatt hours of storage, being able to parallel multiple of those, it gives us access to that, that megawatt storage market, which is getting bigger and bigger. And one of our biggest focuses this year is not just the CNI market, but CNI storage. We think that's going to play a huge role moving forward. So, excited to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And as you said, it's a CNI that's really always had the argument from their rates, because when they look at their electricity bills, it's only a couple cents, 2-3 cents. Of course, when you actually break down all their rates and charges and actually have a look at when you accumulate all those charges together, then suddenly their rate does go up a lot more than I think it is. But really now, with the rising cost of electricity, it makes complete sense for any large organization with a huge energy consumption or even any type of energy consumption, to be able to adopt, renewable energy technology as long as you have, the capabilities. Dean, this is digressing slightly, but still on point. With organizations, of course, the first thing someone's going to think about when they're watching this or, looking at this segment this week at the end of on the TV show, well, I don't actually own my property. I'm leasing it. It's not really because I don't actually own it. I don't know what I'm doing in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. Who knows? There may be another COVID outbreak and we may go bust. I mean, what's the advice you'd give to any organization that doesn't actually own their building?
I think you can still have the discussion with the landlord as well, because if you do the economics and the landlord is familiar with it, they'll certainly have a look at it as well, because it becomes not only a long-term investment for the landlord, but significant benefits for the tenant as well. So I think that they should at least have the discussion and potentially come to some sort of agreement. Because as I said, if you do look at the economics of it, it certainly makes sense. And I remember just going back to the early days, I remember, when we were having conversations with homeowners or businesses, most of them were sort of saying, look, it sounds pretty good, but, their biggest concern was, well, if it's so good, why doesn't everyone have it? And it's just one of those things that, as time's gone on, more and more people have it. Now there's so many examples of people having it. that's not really the argument anymore. Most people agree that it certainly makes sense, and then they start looking at product and, okay, why is this one better than that one? And so it's come a long way, but at least we're having the right conversations.
Absolutely. And that once, I think one of the things that really hit home with the owners of this, the guys running this IGA, is their commitment to net zero, their commitment to, doing their bit for the environment. Because really, they've almost got that perfect balance. I mean, if I'm honest and fair, and people would agree with me watching this, the uptake for solar power, although I'd like to think it's about having a greener Australia, a better planet, reducing the carbon footprint, has almost been geared towards the economics. Okay, I hate my electricity bill. How can I offset that? How can I get some independence so I'm not being charged, up the bottom and having to pay what I've got to pay and I've got no choice. But really what's kind of starting to transition, and the point of the Energy Matters television show is to say that, you can, by reducing your carbon footprint and actually creating a safer, better place for everyone that's going to precede us, in the future, you can actually save on your energy bills. So really reducing carbon footprint equals lower energy bills. So it's an absolute no-brainer. And I think that's becoming more paramount now with people's decision-making and the choices that they're making, because they are really starting to wake up to the fact that, the economics now make sense. I'm going to save some money by installing this technology. And at the same token, I'm actually doing my bit towards, net zero and towards achieving our renewable energy targets. So, which is, obviously warms my heart and is actually great to finally see.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think those early adopters really had a green thumb. They were really concerned about sustainability, these sorts of things. But, we don't often see the mass market actually jump in until the economics really make sense. And, that's usually somewhere around that 5-year return on investment. And as soon as you get close to that, then I think you see all of those other people that actually wanted to get involved earlier, but maybe the economics didn't make sense, now doing that. So I think it is a no-brainer in most cases. And I think we've got an exciting few years ahead of us. Absolutely.
Well, certainly all the original customers from Energy Matters from 20 years ago. It's our 20th birthday, by the way, our 20th year anniversary. So as you can see from the logo just over that corner there. We've really got those guys who bought 1.5 kilowatt systems or 5 kilowatt systems for $25,000, and their premium feeding tariff is now coming to an end or has come to an end. So they're saying, hey, I've got a 5 kilowatt. Can I now remove this system and get a 10 kilowatt system installed in its place? So, fantastic, really big shout out to those early adopters, because really they, the economics definitely, made sense in the feeding tariff to a point. But at the same token, they really led the way. And a lot of the Energy Matters, audience are those early adopters. So massive shout out to you guys. You're absolute legends. Dean, just quickly on the technology as well. I mean, I've been to China. We showed that earlier in the season. Absolutely mind-blowing. And we'll talk about that on another time, or we've spoken about that, I should say. But, just on the cost of technology, what, in your opinion, has had the pricing come down? Is it demand, or is it just the fact that the actual, the minerals or resources required to actually make the technology has actually become, mined more effectively, or has actually just brought down the overall price?
I think if we break it up into two categories, first of all, when we're talking about the inverters and these types of hardware, we've seen the cost of components come down consistently 10 or 12 years. And there hasn't been massive changes to that. But then if we look at batteries separately, we started to see the price of batteries really come down. But then we hit a stumbling block a few years ago because the electric vehicle market really started to emerge. Then what happened was the electric vehicle market started sucking up most of these lithium-ion batteries, and then the solar market got what was left over, which wasn't a lot, and prices actually went up for a period of about 12 to 18 months, and we saw that with the cost of our raw components. But within the last 12 months, maybe 12 to 18 months, we've started to see that come back down again. And that's come back down considerably, and as a result, we're effectively reducing the price on our batteries, and not sure when this is going to air exactly. I think it's tomorrow, but the market will see that very shortly. There'll be a significant reduction in the cost of our Lynx FG2 batteries. So, it'll be great to see some more uptake there.
Look, absolutely. And I must say, special shout out to you guys as well. I mean, you already know I'm a massive fan of GoodWe. Touring your factory was absolutely mind-blowing, super inspiring, and just seeing the actual, the level of sophistication was outstanding. But one thing I think what I really praise GoodWe for doing is manufacturing really high-quality products, but at an affordable price point. And it really does allow, real access across any type of budget that have awesome tech in their home or business, and then obviously maintain that within a certain budget or budget parameters they have. So kudos to you guys, because I feel like you've really sort of hit the mark in terms of encouraging mass adoption of great technology, without any sort of trade-offs, and really having that technology be accessible to everybody in the market. So good work, mate. You guys are certainly doing something right, I can tell you.
Thanks, Rosh. Look, yeah, it's certainly our aim to be the best value for money renewable energy supplier on the market. That's what we're really trying to do. And 8% of our revenue goes back into R&D. Because we do have the widest portfolio on the market, and so you constantly need to update those products at least every couple of years. And then in addition to that, you see new market trends. You see emerging opportunities, new sectors come in. So then you need to be developing new products to suit those as well. So I guess that's why it's so important to constantly reinvest in R&D. Otherwise, you quickly get left behind in this market.
Mate, absolutely. And to finish off, I mean, what advice would you give to any business or commercial, organization, looking to go, like considering their energy bills, who have yet to go solar, and really starting to consider, after watching this and seeing the episode at the end of the week, okay, well, maybe solar power is something we should give some consideration to. What would be your advice to those guys?
My advice is probably more to the people that have been told a mixture of different things, and now they're not sure what to believe, because everyone's had a few calls at their home, and a salesman's tried to sell them solar, and some of the things that they tell them are hard to believe. I would say just do the research, because the economics do make sense. And quite often it's just that you need a solar system or a battery system that actually fits their profile, rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. So, if someone's talking to someone over the phone and says, yep, you need a 15 kilowatt system, without even going into having a look at their load profile, I would certainly, I would try and find a company that'll actually really look at their power usage and tailor a system to suit, because I think in nearly all cases, it certainly works out beneficial. Absolutely. And just for anyone watching, you can actually call up your retailer and ask specifically for your data related to your actually energy consumption. So all that is a phone call and saying, could you please email me my data? They'll send you through a CSV file or an Excel worksheet. And on that one, if you're not very good at Excel, get someone in your family that is, just to crunch the numbers, and you can see for yourself exactly how you're consuming electricity and what the ideal sort of setup would be for you. But once again, the retailers on the market today, those doing commercial solar, there's some absolutely amazing people out there, super intelligent. They know their stuff. And as Dean just said, I mean, if they're willing to actually sit down with you, examine your data, check out your bill, and then go through a conversation with you that actually shows how you consume electricity, when you're consuming it, and what's the right type of setup for you, then you're speaking to the right people. Dean, thank you so much for joining me today. I do appreciate it. Can't wait to see your episode go live on Saturday. It's going to be an absolute barnstormer. Always appreciate your time, Rosh, and also the work that yourself and all the crew from Energy Matters do. So thanks again. Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. All right, we'll catch you soon. So, guys, you heard it here first. It's going to be an absolutely incredible week of viewing. Make sure you get some snacks in. Put your favourite drink in a fridge already. And Saturday at 4 p.m. on 9 Life, you're going to be checking out Energy Matters. It's going to be an incredible episode, certainly featuring this amazing project that has GoodWe technology installed, as well as several others. So don't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you then.